This is Ashish. I'm speaking to you live from Singapore. I'm the founder and CEO of MASH Project Foundation. I'll be moderating your today's session. So it's a very 1 hour session, and I think that we have a lot to cover. So I won't take much time and quickly get into today's flow. Right after me, I have Mr. Vinay, who's the country director of sales and business development at Lark, and he'll be talking to you about a little bit about Lark, set today's context, and then we have a special session with Rajesh Velakat, who's a partner at Fox Mandel Associates, and then we'll have some questions. We'll take up some question and answers from each one of you. Then we have a special session on how Lark is empowering startups on getting them work from home, and how they are empowering them to work remotely and seamlessly. And I personally have a great experience working with Lark, and we'll talk about that. Then we have Rajesh Nair, who's the founder of Interactive Marketing, and he'll be sharing some of his personal experience of using the Lark platform. And towards the end, we'll do another round of question and answer from all of you on how Lark can help each of you in your businesses and in your startups. Towards the end, I'll share a quick link to have a short feedback form to understand how you found this today's session, and then how we can make it better for future. So without taking much time, I'll just start a little bit about myself. So I run an organization called MASH Project Foundation. We are a community organization where we work with startups, social enterprises, to help them, empower them to be able to do greater good. And in that process, we partner with organizations like Lark, like Fox Mandel, like a bunch of partners to help our community members gain more. So the partnership with Lark was very interesting, that we were introduced by one of our other clients, and this was not very recently because of lockdown or something, but almost about 3 to 4 months from now. And trust me, I think it has truly transformed the way we function. I think one of the biggest benefits we had, while a lot of my friends who are also running startups, and I believe some of them have also joined us today, was struggling to move completely remotely, because we are not used to do that. I think Lark really helped us to do this, because we were so used to use the platform, which was so integrated. So from my emails to my WhatsApp to my Drive, everything was so integrated, right? In fact, it's a very, very powerful tool for meetings and video calls. It's just that we're using Zoom today because of a webinar functionality, which I believe Lark is coming up with a very tool to empower us with that also. So, and Vinay may speak more about that, right? So we got in discussion with Vinay and his team, and I thought this partnership came out as a result that as a startup, we got so much value. So how can we create more value for startups, and especially in times like these, where we all are, forced to kind of work from home and work remotely, but yet can do that so efficiently, right? So yes, so I think let's understand a little bit from Vinay. So Vinay, over to you. Let's hear from you.
Thanks, Ashish. Hi, everyone. It's another weekend coming around the corner. We're going through unprecedented times. I think Ashish touched upon that, and I'm confident everybody's staying safe, staying at home, and most importantly, what I say is staying connected, right? So I think the few things that I would share upfront or at the start right now is the importance of the challenges startups or even enterprises face. I think these few things are very common, but they also get aggravated or escalated when you're a budding startup, and you're scrambling to get your core product or core business out, right? And that is, how do I communicate with my team? It's important to stay in contact. Some startups have teams across different locations, because the engineering may have been in Bangalore, or the marketing guy may be just joining or just joined. To share with you, we onboarded 4 team members onto our Lark India team during the lockdown, and all done remotely, and thanks to Lark. So communication becomes very important. Second thing becomes collaboration, right? I mean, how do I communicate? I am communicating. How do I continuously maintain and build my project, or if I'm live as a service provider or a product, how do I continue to collaborate and work? Third becomes maintaining business continuity on whether it is any approvals, applications. Uh, so, am I still visible, Ashish? Okay,
Yeah, Vinay, sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. We can see you.
Yeah, sure. Third, obviously, becomes maintaining business continuity, and the fourth part of it, very critical, becomes I'm using different applications. How do I stay connected to all of them? And some of them could be accounting, some of them could be CRM, some of them could be open platform bots, APIs. So, to give a brief introduction, Lark is the next generation all-in-one suite which empowers all of these applications as one. And I'll share more details on a product portfolio in the later half. But I think it's important as startups that you use the right tools. Um, Rajesh will share, Ashish has shared already. We've seen startups land up using 6 to 8 free tools, what we say the free version of the freemium tools, actually, if I may correct that, because you don't want to spend money on applications and software. So it's important that while you use the free applications, Lark is free for startups, and it's one app rather than using 6 apps. There is a customer called Stones to Milestones who actually replaced 8 applications as a startup. I don't know how many Ashish did. I remember when I met his team in Delhi, some part of his team, and they were scrambling and using multiple apps. And when we told them they don't have to use all these, and it almost like, oh, I cannot believe that. Uh, so I think that is something that I would like to, and obviously Rajesh later in the session will also share more as a matured enterprise. How did that help him? So yeah, Lark, to summarize this, uh, situations like this where we're working from home is actually going to lead to what I believe is going to be the new future of work, which is transformation on remote working, or basically driving your new workplace as well as your work culture, and thus impacting the workforce. So, as startups, do look at this both from tools to use, so that you can expand your startups. And I already see some early questions on business opportunities during these times. I think we'll look at problems that are arising out of a situation like this, and how can you navigate and pivot your business model to support situations not only both internally but also to customer, whether it's a new idea or existing idea. So having said that, I'll hand it back to Ashish, and then I'll share more of the product in the session later.
Thanks, Vinay. Okay, so let's go out to the next leg where we have a session on legal and financial tips for startups, how to survive during COVID-19. The session is led by Rajesh Velakat, who's a partner at Fox Mandal and Associates. Just quick uh, bio about him. He's an alum from London School of Economics and Political Science and has over 2 decades of experience in the corporate law. His areas of expertise includes private equity, technology laws, e-commerce, investments, corporate governance, and intellectual property. He has the technology law and startup teams and oversees the corporate governance, and has also been very, very instrumental in kind of mentoring and supporting startups. So it's going to be a very engaging session. So I'm pretty excited and looking forward. Rajesh, over to you.
Uh, Hi. Good morning, everybody. This is an opportunity for me to interact with budding entrepreneurs. I understand that most of the attendees are owners of startups or key members of the startup. Always interacting with entrepreneurs is an exciting time because we get new ideas, new emerging businesses. It gives us a futuristic view of what we are going to live in the next decade. So always, it's a pleasure to interact with startups and entrepreneurs. But this is an unusual circumstance where Ashish asked me to connect with you all and speak on this occasion, because businesses are getting disrupted. With regard to this current situation, how you need to cope up with the present Am I able to share my video? I don't think
No,
so.
Rajesh, yes, we don't see your screen. So can you do your screen
Yeah,
share your screen?
I think it is
Yes,
shared now.
yes. You can do the presenter view. Wonderful. Can see it now.
You can see me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Rajesh, it's again on the slideshow view. If you can, yeah, works for now.
This is better.
I hope all the participants are able to see the screens. If anybody is facing any challenge, just put it in the chat box, and I have few of my team members, and we'll address that concern. Yes, Rajesh, please go ahead.
Okay. So this is an unusual circumstances which we haven't seen or anticipated ever. We never imagined that because of the virus, the entire world will become locked down. The mobility of people will go down. Traffic will almost become nil. Entire businesses will shut. A country like 130 crores of people will cease their business and sit at home. It's never imagined in my life, and same will be the case for all of you. These unprecedented business situations, you need to be dynamic to survive. And
Rajesh,
hello.
just a small thing. Sorry, I think one of the participant Brinda has mentioned that the screen is not visible. So can I request you to maybe stop your video, and because probably that will have a larger view of your slideshow. Sorry to.
I will do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah, just stop the video and do a full screen share. Yeah. On the bottom left. On the bottom left, there is a start video, stop video option on your panel.
I'm not able to get that.
Wait a second. I think I can control.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Perfect. I hope, Brinda, that addresses your concern. Just put it on the chat box so we know if this is okay for all of you now. You can see the full screen.
Is it audible?
Yes, I think it's working fine. Great. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially startups are more vulnerable in these kind of situations. Why? Because you don't have a matured ecosystems to survive in terms of manpower, in terms of finances, in terms of resources. And the most impacted categories of people in this situation will be startups. What to do in these circumstances is something which we can think about. I have few suggestions, but one thing is very clear. Entire business relations, entire contractual obligations, collaborations may get into trouble. Maybe because of the problems at your end, or maybe because of the problems at your counterparty side or the other contracting party side. And you can expect a hell lot of renegotiating efforts in the coming months, which is already visible. What to do in this kind of situations? One simple and short answer is whosoever having cash, whosoever having liquidity will survive. Who is unable to maintain the liquidity will collapse and will end up in bankruptcy. And this statement makes the things very clear from startups perspective. Why? Because generally startups will have very poor cash at their hand, because they're all investing in their product or the services, and they will be looking for cash rather than maintaining cash flow. And most of the businesses might not have achieved positive cash in their business as well. So quite unusual, but the only solution is, or only I believe that only a person having cash will survive in this situation. Somehow we need to achieve cash positive positions or maintain cash positive positions. In addition to that, so how to achieve the cash positive positions? If you are stopping your business, you will end up in negative territory. So you need to continue to do business. In what manner is something depend on sector to sector or the business to business concept. But you need to look for a continuance of your business so that some cash flow is achieved always. If you are failing on this, I'm sure it will end up in disputes, and courts will inundate with matters. Each one will be more choosy on their rights than on the obligations. And we lawyers may have a better time in the coming months. Not better terms in terms of professional work. Yes, we may have to look into all contractual aspects. So it is testing time for lawyers to check their abilities in enforcing and protecting their rights. Mm, how to survive? I feel that you need to maintain cash, you need to ensure liquidity, and you need to somehow avoid insolvency. So absence of liquidity, absence of cash flow is the end result of insolvency. One observation I noticed is Reserve Bank is pumping money like anything. There is enough liquidity in banking sector. NBFC is flooded with money. The interest rates are coming down. There are flexible lending options or given by the banks and NBFCs. It is not a big challenge to raise debt at this point of time because banks are looking for opportunities. And Reserve Bank has given clear instructions to banks on supporting the startups and budding entrepreneurs. Overall, if you have a decent business, provable business, and revenue, continuing revenues, I feel that you can look for credits. Discounting of your invoices or discounting of your business and getting money may be achievable. There are some specialized products launched by few banks and NBFCs in this line, so probably you can try looking for those opportunities. On the operational side, you need to create an alternate work environment. Products like Lark or products like other collaborating tools, maybe you need to experiment with, try with, and settle on things. And that consequentially will reduce your real estate costs. You don't need to have large offices now. You don't need to pay rent at a higher level. And this is a real tool. When you are working on an online platform or online environment, it is easier for you to track the performance of employees. Necessarily, you need to have a very detailed analysis about employee performances. You need to create matrices for it. You need to keep them on toes rather than it's a vacation time. Even within our firm or within our clients where I'm involved, making employees to change their work patterns and adopting a new way of employment is challenging. But what I noticed is in a month's time, most of the employees have accustomed, adopted this new way of life. And I feel that as an employer myself, I'm able to monitor the performance of the employees in a better manner than in a real office work environment. Obviously, the business is going down. Companies may, overall economy is going down. Everyone is predicting that recession is expected in a large scale. The entire economy may go down by 30% is what a few economists have predicted. These are all random numbers, but one thing is very clear. Economy is definitely going to impact. Naturally, in a recessionary environment, you need to look at your expenditure patterns, including salary structures. You need to look for alternate revenue sources. And I feel that this is a fantastic opportunity for Indian businesses because the aversion towards certain territories are growing up. Proximity towards Indian market is much higher. Both products and services, I feel that Indian businesses can grow. You need to look for opportunities where Indian companies and Indian startups can collaborate. And then definitely you need to focus on revenue expenditure balancing. This is not the time to build business, but to sustain. So don't look for expansion or customer acquisitions or spend money on all that. Just be in a balanced revenue expenditure positions. In terms of investment side, I believe that private equity may be a little more conscious or venture capitalists will be little slow in their movement in the coming few months. But the moment the position is stable, I believe that there will be greater investment into Indian economy. I don't overall feel that COVID is a bad circumstances for Indian economy. Of course, it will have huge disruptions at the beginning, but in a long term, this is a fantastic opportunity.
Rajesh, one of the
Yes.
questions, if you can speak a little louder,
Okay.
closer to the mic, so that'll be great.
Okay.
Also, just a heads up on the time. We have about 10 minutes for the slides, and then we'll take up a few questions that's coming in.
I will do that. Every enterprise should do a SWOT analysis. You need to look for your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is an internal exercise you need to go for now. You need to expect supply chain disruptions, performance failures, contract breaches, layoffs, unemployment. These are all bad elements. But I believe all this can be overcome, or to a certain extent, by renegotiating the business arrangements. What is renegotiation? A business is successful only when you have the ability to do business with your contracting parties. But certain circumstances like this will make you impossible or your contracting party unable to perform the promises. Inevitably, this leads to a different set of discussions, a different kind of negotiations may emerge. As a lawyer, I am going to give you few contracting tips or renegotiating tips which you need to be bothered about. There can be proposals like the other side saying, I cannot do the thing as I promised, but I can do it in a different way. This may be because of the current contractual situations or the economic situations. There can be arguments that I will not perform, but someone else will perform. Few may say that I am ready to perform, but you are not willing to take it. Some will say that I cannot do it now, but I can do it after 6 months. Some will say that the essential terms what we discussed will not work in the present context. So let us renegotiate. Let us change these ABC terms. This kind of different forms of renegotiations, demands, requests may come in the coming months. It can be from employees, it can be from your contracting parties, it can be from your vendors, it can be from your service providers, it can be your raw material suppliers. So depending on industry, these kind of similar arguments is expected. In this context, you need to, of course, in last 20 days, if you look at the webinars, you will find a lot of seminars and discussions on force majeure. But you should, force majeure is an important clause in contracts, and this is squarely applicable to the situations like this. But however, there was less attention to other contractual principles. So I wanted to make you aware of other legal principles applicable to renegotiation of contracts. That includes acquiescence, estoppels, waiver, novations, essence of time, liquidated damages, remoteness of damages, concept of specific performance. I'm sure if you are not lawyers, you might not have heard of any of these sentences other than amendments or probably waiver. But one thing is sure, you may have to find synergies at this point of time. You need to structure collaboration.
Hi, Rajesh. I'm not able to hear you. Can you hear me? I think there's some technical issue. We are not able to hear Rajesh. Just let me check once. Give me a minute, please. Hi, Rajesh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Am I connected?
Yeah. I think we lost you in between. Can
Okay.
you please share your
Okay,
screen?
I will continue. I will continue again. The screen is available, right?
No. So I think you need to share it again.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah.
It's available now.
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruptions. I think my connection went out. Am I audible to you all?
I hope so. I think I can hear you. If anybody is facing
Okay.
challenge, just let us know in the chat box. We'll take care of it. Yeah, Rajesh, can you resume your slide?
Oh, yeah.
I think we are seeing the PPT view right now.
Okay.
Okay. Also, just heads up on the time. We have
So
about 5 more minutes, and then we have a few questions coming.
I will do that. So this is the opportunity for you to look for collaborations. You need to be aware of the jurisprudential differences as well. Let me elaborate a little bit about these legal concepts. Acquiescence is assume that there is a business situation where your contracting party says you are I cannot perform in a particular manner, but I will do it in a different manner, and you are very desperate to receive that service or product, so you accepted that product or service. Then later point of time, you cannot say that I don't want this way of doing. I want it in the original way agreed, because an acquiescence is a kind of implied consent or a passive acceptance of a service or a product than originally agreed. It can be by way of your conduct or word. So when you accuse or when you permit others to do something in a different manner, you be conscious about the rights or the concept of acquiescence. Once you give a concession will become the new rule. So I'm not saying you should not give concession, but you need to be aware about this legal concept. Estoppel is once you agreed for something, you cannot go back. It is a legal bar against asserting rights than means even if it is originally agreed. If you give a concession earlier, you cannot go back. Alteration is amendment. So if terms are amended, altered, that becomes the new contract. The concept is called novation. So a existing contract will become converted into a new contract. Waiver is an intentional relinquishment. So assume that you have a right to receive something today, you are not receiving it, or you are intentionally allowing the other contracting party not to perform, give a concession, it becomes a waiver. It's an act of giving up. Time is an essence. So if your contract is not very clearly states that time is not an essence, then the other contracting party has the contractual freedom to say that time is not an essence, so I can perform after 2 months. You need to look into your contractual terms and see whether there is clauses like material adverse change, effect of material adverse event, effect, and all that. You need to understand what constitutes a breach, what constitutes a material breach. Specific performance is a legal remedy available under law. So you can force another contracting party to perform as agreed through a court action. So that is called specific performance. You need to understand how and in what manner specific performance will work. Liquidated damages, assume that if contract is not able to be performed and the contract says I will pay you 100 rupees for that failure, the concept is called liquidated damages. But the application of liquidated damages varies between territories, jurisdiction to jurisdictions. There is a concept called remoteness of damages. So you cannot claim under Indian law damages beyond the direct consequences of that failure. So like that, there are many contractual legal concepts. It is the time for you to apply all that legal principles. You need to seriously do a review of all your existing contracts and what wrongs can happen to those contracts. You need to understand the legal differences in legal system between that is prevailing across globe. There are fundamentally 3-4 basic legal systems across the globe. Common law system is the system which British territories and British Commonwealth countries are following. Civil law systems are prevailing in Europe. Socialist systems are those of the communist countries. Religious legal systems are in Middle East and other Islamic countries. There are fundamental difference on application of contracts in terms of under each of these legal systems. So when you are contracting with a civil law system contracting party, the understanding of all these concepts will be entirely different than a common law systems. So if you have transnational contracts, be very particular about the legal systems applicable to it. But despite all these legal rights, I believe that it is time.
Yes, I think there's some problem at Rajesh's side. I'm not able to hear him. Hi, Rajesh, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
I think
Hello.
there's some technical issue at your end.
Is it audible now?
Yes, yes, can hear you.
Okay. And the screen is available, right?
No, actually not. You have to share that again. Also, Rajesh, just heads up on time. So we have a couple of questions also in. So
I have already done my presentation.
Sure,
so
sure.
I will finish.
We have about another 10 minutes for the question answers.
Okay, so is it visible now?
Yeah, visible, but it's not the presenter view.
Okay.
Yeah.
One is if your company is not fully legally compliant, this is the right opportunity for you to interact with your company secretaries and lawyers, because Ministry of Corporate Affairs have come up with a new scheme called Companies Fresh Start Scheme. So even if you are there is compliance failures, they are not going to charge any penalties or any kind of penal consequences. You can have a fresh start now. So this is a beautiful opportunity to rectify all your compliance failures. Just take your legal advice from your lawyers or chartered accountants or company secretaries, whomsoever you depend. Understand about company's fresh start scheme. Look into investindia.gov.in regularly. There are beautiful schemes coming on a regular basis. SIDBI has come up with something. I believe that it is a golden day for manufacturing ventures. Funds and equities will come at a cheaper cost. You may not require to dilute that much in the next coming months, but you will get equivalent money. It is a time for international collaboration. I believe that this is the right opportunity. So overall, I don't feel that bad to all these for businesses. Of course, it will hugely disrupt your business for next few months, and if you don't have to, you may end up in trouble. But overall, on a long term or in a mid term, I feel that it is a fantastic opportunity for Indian business. I believe I made some sense to you all. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you, Ashish. Thank you, Lark and Mash, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, I am ready to receive.
Yes, so there are a couple of questions, Rajesh. I'll quickly jump into them. Just give me one second. Okay, perfect. So let's just start with our questions. So there's a question on force measure. I think that's from Chahat Khattar. She said that how much applicable is force measure in case of financial arrangements in case of a bank has extended a loan to a startup. So how can startup exercise force measure in states, and that if it can't pay back, right? And how legally is that valid?
Okay, so the concept of force majeure depends on contract to contract. It is a contractual provision. It is not a statutory provision per se. So you need to look at your contract, the concerned contract, read the force majeure clause very, very carefully. First of all, you need to look at what whether it is applicable to the present context. Obviously, in most of the situations, it will be applicable because government itself has declared this as a force majeure event. Then you need to look at the contractual terms and see what is the consequences of invoking a force majeure. So when there is a force majeure clause in the contract, you need to invoke that. So you need to communicate to the other contracting party that I'm invoking this clause. You need to then look into the contractual clause and see what is the remedies available in case of a force majeure contracts. Most of the force majeure contracts give the other party, other contracting party, a liberty to end the contract. So ending the contract may not be a right solution to this situation. There can be certain situations where the contractual clause says in case of a force majeure event, you have an opportunity to defer your obligations. So it depends on contract to contract. You need to carefully read the concerned contract. With regard to loan transactions, a force majeure event will not extinguish your obligation to pay the loan. It may merely give you an opportunity to defer your payments. By a RBI order, all banks have mandated to give 3 months of deferring obligations. It can get extended for further period, but it will not extinguish your obligations. You may have to repay the money. I don't think none of the financial transactions or agreements will say a situation where if in case of a force majeure situation, your obligation to pay is extinguished. That may not be the in many of the contracts.
Right. Thanks, Rajesh. There's another question. I think two people have asked about how do they go about about pay cuts and how do they negotiate the terms with their employees. Secondly, in case of some startups which are small startups and they are losing out money and they have to end up firing their employees or laying off. So again, from a legal standpoint, how do they go about doing that?
Okay. This paying salaries to employees is again hugely debated in last 2-3 weeks because of some government notifications. There is a central government notification or a kind of advisory first, and then there is a notification. Then some few state governments have released similar notification. It says that no employer should terminate the employment and every employee should be paid fully. This is a huge concern for startups because if you don't have money and government is insisting that you need to pay the money, and if the default is considered as a default under Disaster Management Act, it is a dangerous situation. But the intent of the government is to maintain some kind of stability during these very, very extremely troublesome situations. I don't think it is going to be a permanent directive from the government. What government is intending is you should not make use of COVID as an opportunity for not paying employees. You need to make the payment somehow for the trouble period, but the moment it is eased out, you have all the opportunities to renegotiate the terms. You can look at situations of retrenchment, flexible work arrangements, or reducing the salaries, depending again on the context to context, depending again the salary structures that your employees are in. But all these options are available when this lockdown is over. You may exercise this. That is the only way for you to survive. But not now. I don't think this is the time because government notification strictly says that you need to follow your obligations.
Great. There was one last question on, I'm not able to read it. Just give me 1 second. I think there's some, sorry. Give me 1 second. Okay. So Rajesh, there was a question from Baljit. Being in the health sector, the elective work is reduced to about 20%. How to convince our authorities to continue with old MOUs because we are providing services in the times of emergency? Again, I think it's about negotiating with your authority. So what are your thoughts on that?
Can you repeat the question once again, Ashish?
Yes. So it says that being in the health sector, the elective work, which is reduced to less than about 20% now, how do you convince your authorities to continue with previous agreements or previous MOUs arrangements that you have with them, because they are now busy providing emergency services, right? So because of a previous contract, they were supposed to do something, but now that work is not like emergency or a priority anymore. So it's reduced to about 20%. But they are, authorities are saying, no, you need to do that also, but you're also doing doing emergency service. So any thoughts on that?
In any contracts, Ashish, any contract, when you are changing your contractual obligations, the first thing you need to do is to give a notice.
Notice. Okay.
You need to issue a notice to the other contracting party, explaining the difficulties that you are facing, or explaining the overall circumstances or the factors that has impacted or changed. Narrate the whole things. Propose some new arrangements for the time being. But in a trouble situation, it is not for you to renegotiate right away. Continue to follow the obligations, but convey very clearly in the notice that these are all subject to a revised terms that we need to negotiate immediately after lockdown. So a notice should go to the concerned party immediate. Explain your difficulties, explain your changed circumstances very clearly. And what you are expecting out of it should also be very clear. So this communication can go now. Wait for a right opportunity, maybe a month after, then probably we can renegotiate.
Great. Thank you, Rajesh. If we have time, we'll come back to it. I think let's get into the next half of the session. Thanks a lot. I think that's very informative. I was taking notes while I was saying. I think some of that things were really helpful to me too. I'm sure our attendees today. So now we will move into our next half of the session, where we have a session on remote working from Lark, and I request Vinay.
Thank you, Ashish. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Rajesh.
And thank you, participants. So sorry for interrupting. Yeah, thank you.
There are more questions coming in, but I think we'll take it to the end. But let's hear from Vinay now.
You can share your email, my email ID. Probably I can write or
we have everybody's
my contacts.
We'll be sending out a feedback and a thank you email. So in that we will include that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rajesh. Vinay, can you hear me?
Yes, Ashish.
Great. Are we good to start with your session?
Yeah, be good. So I'm just waiting. So yeah, hi everyone. Interesting session, interesting questions on especially fighting for survival. But I think I'll use the next since we're ahead on time, behind time rather. I'll show a quick video. It's a 3 or 4 minute video, and then I'll skip the presentation but have a more open conversation and use the remaining time for Q&A. So let me go ahead and share my screen and have this video play for you guys.
Vinay, can you stop your video? Sorry.
Ever since the lockdown has happened, our entire agency is working from home. That's about 40 people. Art directors, video editors, copywriters, account management. Our biggest worry though about people working from home was could we still work together as a team? And that's when we found Lark. Lark lets us ideate, communicate and collaborate with our team members remotely. So working from home is a breeze. Here's how we use it. With Lark, we can create separate internal groups for our clients. As an account manager, this means that I always have access to my team. If I need to share a creative brief, presentation, or research findings, I can simply click on the calendar icon in a group and schedule a meeting.
If we need to do a brainstorm, with a single click, we can start a video or audio conference.
I just got a new brief, so is it okay if we get on a brainstorm?
We can also share docs during the conference, and the best part is everyone can view and scroll through the docs at their own pace.
We'll have to think of what communication we want. Maybe for print ads, will be extended later.
We can also edit the docs simultaneously from within the video call window.
For a writer like me, Lark Docs is essentially a dream. I can add things to a doc, like visual references that my art partner shared. I can even give people permission to edit, so that my creative director and supervisor can make additions or changes. But what's really handy about Lark Docs is that multiple people can edit a document at once. In fact, I can add a to-do list, tag my teammates, and add deadlines. Whoever I tag gets a notification in their chat. People can also highlight certain sections and add comments specific to those sections. And anytime someone comments, I get notified. This saves me the trouble of drafting mails every time and makes the whole feedback process so much easier.
Great client presentations can sell an idea, and a poor one can kill an idea. But in this lockdown scenario, we can't meet our clients physically, so our presentations have to work that much harder, which they do with Lark. In a Lark document, you can attach images, audio and video files, PDF attachments, charts, and even conduct polls. We don't have to use any other application. And the best part is, the doc can be shared during a video conference, making it safe and effective.
I really like the second route. I say let's go ahead with that.
Okay. When it comes to making campaigns, Lark makes it easily achievable from the safety of your home. And the best part is, you can do it all in one app. And it's free.
We are infectious advertising.
And we are spreading love for our brands even in the lockdown.
And it's all thanks to Lark.
So that was a short video from a customer that faced a lot of challenge that during the lockdown, and we were glad we were able to step in and help them. So what does Lark do? I'll give a quick introduction and then use the remaining time to address any of your questions, and also have Rajesh share. So Lark actually is an all-in-one enterprise suite that lets you do communication, collaboration, creation, business functions, as well as open platform. On communications, you have chat, unlimited users, video conferencing, unlimited minutes, up to 100 participants. You have live streaming and announcements. Then on the collaboration, you have Lark Drive, where we offer up to 200 GB drive space free. You have Lark Docs and Lark Sheets. We almost call it like the same page meeting. Then on the business continuity, you have attendance, approvals, digitalizing any workflows, check-ins and reports. And then the open platform capability lets you to have APIs or integrations, connectors, and bots. So with that, obviously Lark for Startups is ideal, and Mash and Ashish themselves have been using it. Keeping in interest of time, I'll let Rajesh introduce yourself and actually share challenges you faced and how Lark was able to assist you there.
Hi, I'm here. Okay, so I'll go ahead. Interactive, while this is about startups and somebody said I'm a matured organization, I still feel like a startup. So that just to get everybody that, probably it's been 22 years that we have been operating. We work with both large and SMBs on their GTM strategies. We assist them on being able to take their products and services and reach the target segment or the target market that they intend to go to. We have been a traditional in terms of while we started off the digital journey, but the pandemic has kind of fast forwarded everything. And we have now moved to a phase where we have to quickly give solutions and be able to reach out to customers, both internal and external, with solutions, with the challenges of the lockdown and not being able to have physical movement or people coming to office. We were experimenting with a lot of products in terms of how do we go ahead and do that. And like most of you, or like Ashish mentioned earlier, there were multiple applications that we were using to be able to do that. Lark consolidates all this in terms of it puts all these different modules onto a single platform, and with a single sign-on helps us or helps our entire workforce be able to do a whole lot of functions which are needed for us to operate smoothly as a business. Vinay was talking about 14 people added, Interactive added, Vinay, if I may, 230 people during this lockdown, completely on remote and using Lark, we have integrated our whole HR onboarding process onto Lark. And right from screening, interviewing, document submission to appointment letter issuance, everything has happened on Lark. And we have got the team to be able to get started, or the whole project to kickstart using remote working. So in those ways, that's where the whole change and the whole shift has happened. Like we said, rather than going into too much of details, it's best when we take questions, because in the interest of time, what we have as an organization been able to do, much like infectious advertising, is try and get our teams together far more easier, try and ensure processes are smooth, whether it is writing to customers, whether it is interacting with them, whether it is sending them product presentations or doing a product presentation through video. We've been able to do all of this through Lark, and it's pretty intuitive. So training in terms of as a new application, getting the team to train, we did not really have to spend that much time, because it's pretty much similar to most of the applications that people use and are used to. So it integrates into one and just adds a lot more features onto that. So that's about it from my end, and I think we can take questions from the panel participants.
Thank you, Rajesh. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes, guys. I think there was a couple of questions which Vinay answered. That was from Nitisha regarding the space and the privacy and data. Rishabh Mahajan has a question. Oh, okay, the slide from the previous. Of course, sure. Rishabh, we will share that. Regarding Lark and how it functions, and if any questions from any participants, you can just raise your hand or put it on the chat box. I can unmute if you would like to speak. I can unmute you, and you can take on questions from there on. Okay, we have Chad has a question. How Lark is different from others, let's say from HubSpot? Vinay, would you like to take that?
Yeah, so Lark is an all-in-one app. So there are many applications that offer single feature offerings versus if you look at what Lark is doing, it's bringing in communication, that is chat, video conferencing, live streaming, announcements. If you look at collaboration, Lark Docs, Lark Sheets, Drive, email now, soon to be live. If you see business applications, it all sort of brings all. I think better, Ashish, you would be equipped to answer this as a customer as well as Rajesh, how you were using multiple apps and how it actually got in and saved did that.
Rajesh, would you like to go first?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, so we were using a bit of Slack. We were using an email service in terms of being able to link our entire email service and the domain that we had. And we were using something else from our digital campaign in terms of, again, you're looking at multiple solutions, wanting to do that. For HRMS, we used a separate platform, separate use for that. For approving expenses, our travel policy, our multiple policies on the organization, we were using a different application for that. And these were all as the organization grew, right? Like I said, in the last 22 years of this organization being there, you keep on experimenting, you keep on working, and as need arises, you keep on addressing those. But we did feel the need for us to be able to get all this together, because every time somebody came in new, for that person to be able to understand this, and at the same time with devices, bandwidth, and all of those being an issue, there was always a point of having these multiple applications, opening them, working on them, and they're not talking to each other. So in those ways, Lark is beautiful in terms of that it gets everything onto the single platform. And like I said, a single sign-on gives us access to all these different modules that we want for running the organization.
Right. Just to add to that, for us, the biggest, I think, one is definitely seamless integration with different applications. You don't need to jump from, let's say, Google Drives to then have a call on a Zoom and then, probably have a, WhatsApp parallelly going on with Teams. So it's kind of, very difficult to manage all of that. Secondly, ours is, we have a large team of volunteers we work with on different projects, and they're spread across the country, right? So there's a lot of sort of inflow outflow of people moving in and out. So one of the most amazing thing we found it is that moment you add anybody, you have access to all the previous, like let's say a new member added on a group, so they can access everything like a previous chats, previous files, and even if they're leaving at a single point, that access is taken away, right? So that's been really, really advantage in our case. Plus also check-in, check-out systems. Admins workload has drastically reduced to keep a tap on that, right? It takes your geolocation, it takes your timing, and you just it's very easily to kind of do your attendance checks and so on and so forth. So I think I highly recommend to all of you. I think most of you already signed up for it and started using the product. If you have any specific area where you think you're facing challenge, or your organization is facing challenge, we are more than happy to take that. And Vinay and Lark team is here. I believe Nitisha has asked a question. Vinay, would you like to take that? She's asked about a learning management system is used for taking online classes, and that is being currently integrated with Zoom. Can Lark be also integrated to an existing system? She's from ISDM, which is one of the leading development management studies institutions.
So we as Lark are supporting the education as well as the social sector, and that also addresses another question put in very aggressively. Currently, 30 educational institutes are using, 30 plus are using Lark already. And because of Lark's live streaming capability as well as VC capabilities and shared docs, schools are and educational institutes, coaching classes and colleges have started using Lark to continue teaching students, using announcements to share updates, chat groups to create virtual classrooms. So Lark has been, and we've made it completely free for education and social sector across the country. And that has been very important support. And we continue to do that very aggressively. Uh, we continue to do that very aggressively to support. Yes, you can integrate. For example, one of the educational institutes needed an whiteboard application. So our tech partner actually created a whiteboard application inside Lark, and now the school institution is using whiteboard to teach students. So hope that answers that.
Perfect. All right, Nitisha, who I can connect? Nitisha, we will help you to make a connection with the Lark team and Vinay's team for sure. There was one question from Chahat. Is Lark also supporting any government of India or state governments in education? For example, Zoho is a Startup India program partner. So any such collaborations, Vinay?
So we're working with various, some we can share and some are in discussions. Like I mentioned, we are working very actively, obviously, Ashish, with your organization to support the social sector. And I think that's one way to support is how do you empower the community at large so that they can execute their work. And there are notable social sector organizations that are now using Lark. Similarly, on the education side, both government or not or private, we are actively supporting them with technology because we believe that technology is a great leveler. In times like this, where you're physically bound, you're bound to physical space, but your work must continue. Your access of communication and updates must continue. So there are various ways, and I think we're doing a fair bit to one make Lark for free across these key sectors, and also provide service on demand, on call, and create integrations so that this sector can continue, which is a very key sector in India.
Perfect. Okay, we have a little more time, about another 2-3 minutes. So Anveshi asked, does Lark help collaborate with our partners who are not part of our organization and may or may not have Lark? These partners could be working in remote location, and so they have features like they are on offline mode, or they're using geotagging, etc. So how does it integrate with other tools?
So you can use other, like I mentioned, Lark's open platform has integrations, and we are already connected with over 100 applications on the Lark open platform. So one, you can always connect any, if your external contacts are using any other application and you want some of the information displayed. I'll give you an example of, for a customer, in fact, for Rajesh right here, they use Tally as an internal process quite actively. And now, as an owner, he's able to see reports in his Lark environment. So that's just a classic case of how we can use external applications and pull data that the uh, enterprise requires and have them connected to Lark. Obviously, there is some tech requirement which the customer can do both in-house or outsource it to a tech partner.
Perfect. Thanks, Vinay. Any more questions? We can take one or two more questions. I know it's time. Also, in the chat box, I've put a form for a feedback form. It's a very short form. It will help us to understand what was your key learnings. If there's any way we can, make our future sessions better. So please, I request all of you to fill that feedback form. Okay, there's one more question that's come in. It's from an anonymous person. I don't know who's written this, but how can Lark solve any problem of automatic approvals, and can it be customized?
Oh, yes, so Lark actually has an entire approval module inside. It's almost like a Lego box. You go in and create a form. You have about 16, 18 widgets that you can choose from. And then you design the process where you just say this should be applicable to so and so. If it meets the condition, then it's auto approval. If it doesn't meet the condition, then it should ask for approval. So I'll give an example of reimbursement. You may say that on a daily basis, my field team has up to 200 rupees reimbursement as an auto approval. You simply go in and mark your entire team, select condition 200. If less, auto approved, and send a copy to finance or accounts. If greater than 200, then get to the manager. So that's the way you can auto customize it.
Thanks. I think to that, I'll also like to add, like to our organizations, like their volunteers spread out multiple projects. It was becoming such a pain to take up, copy of the bill and then send it to somebody on the email, and the process was so cumbersome. Now, like it's so automated now. So I think it's really drastically reduced our time and effort to store each of the bills. Our CA thanks us more than anybody. Okay, one last question is from Monica. She wants to know, how is Lark helping students, faculty of colleges, and if there is ITIs who for running daily basic classes, if they provide these, if you provide any such kind of solutions for training institutes, educational institutes.
Yeah. So we mentioned more than 30 educational institutes are. Sorry, one second.
No problem.
Sorry, guys. I think we have our little moments when we all are working from home.
Yeah.
Two beautiful children, and it's lunchtime for them at least. Anyways.
Yes.
Yes, I think like I mentioned, we are supporting educational institutes for student faculty of college and to run daily classes, because you can create your chat groups into virtual classrooms. You can go into that and simply click on live video conferencing and actually conduct the class. You can actually record the sessions and keep them. You can use the Lark docs to create assignments. You can use the whiteboard for teaching. So happy to take this offline, and Monica, and help you and the team understand how Lark can support more educational institutes.
Okay, once very small short question, Vinay, what is the user limit on Lark? Any user limit?
Yes. Ashish will address this as the last. I would have to step out.
Yes.
There's no user limit on Lark. Unlimited users. User groups are unlimited. Only if any user limit is 5,000 users per chat group.
Okay.
But you can have unlimited users, unlimited groups per enterprise, but up to 5,000 users per chat group.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Yeah, on the VC it is up to 100 users currently.
Right. Thank you so much, Vinay, and thanks everyone. Especially to Lark for it was an idea, and then finally we were able to do this, and I'm sure all the attendees found valuable. Especially thanks to Rajesh Belakat for running us through some very important tips for startups in this very challenging times, and Rajesh Nair to share his personal experience or his organization to you. So we'll be in touch with all of you. Thanks, Vinay. So we'll be in touch. We will share the slides, as well as our teams will be in touch one-on-one to you to take any queries related to Lark and help your organizations come on board and use the seamless, get the whole work from home in a very seamless manner. So thanks everybody. If we could not take any specific questions, so we can take it offline. I think we have all of your emails. I've shared the feedback form, but we'll also be sending you an email with the slides and other details. Have a good day, and please take care, stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.